this is Laura Medeiros. Welcome to the Moreno Valley Animal Shelter Dogs Running Out of Time Facebook page. The shelter itself does not want to get involved with having their employees run the Facebook page. This particular Facebook page that I have set up here has been in existence for about 2 years. I wanted to provide information to networkers and cross-posters because there seems to be confusion with this shelter. Now, this shelter is considered a kill shelter. It is located in Riverside County in Southern California. First, I'd like to go over with you how the shelter runs its policies. Now, the best way to do that is to go on to petharbor.com. That's PETHARBOR.com. Now, at the beginning of every hour, this shelter's individual listings for every dog are updated. So there are 2 sections here. The first one is go on, change your search type, adopt a pet. Then you would click on dogs and then search now. Now, as you'll see here, we came up with these banners because a lot of people are, of course, spending their own personal time trying to help the shelter. And a lot of times you really didn't know what the status was of an animal. So we came up with the idea of these banners. The banners themselves will say, I've been adopted, I've been rescued. Some say I'm being fostered, and some will say return to their owner. Now, if you see a dog's picture like this cute dog here, what you can do is click on the picture. Now, that tells you the dog is still alive. The dog was not adopted. So you would click on the picture, and up will come information of how long the dog has been in the shelter. Naturally, the longer they've been there, obviously, the more urgent they are. If you go down to the section here, just use the cursor on the right, you can get information. Now it says click here to indicate an interest in this animal. Click on that. Now this is the most important thing for the shelter. The shelter needs to know if you have an interest in this dog. If there's nobody who has an interest, that animal naturally is in high risk of getting put to sleep because there's nobody to contact. The shelter believes that nobody's interested in the dog. Now, the way that you would do this is on your main search, you go under Lost My Pet, click on dog, and this will be the animals as they come into the shelter when you search on them. This will change once again also at the beginning of every hour. So if a dog is still on a stray hold, you would click on that dog's picture and then come down on the right and click here to indicate an interest in this animal. It's a pull down menu. You have to fill this out. Now, this information has to be done before the animal comes off of the stray hold period. That will register with the shelter. If you're going to put an interested party on an animal that's already available, it doesn't register. Now, this is one of the main areas where the shelter's saying, okay, nobody's interested, therefore, if the dog gets sick, we're going to put it to sleep. Any dog at any time in this shelter can be put to sleep. A lot of people are, concerned on the threads, well, the dog's only been there a couple of days, what happened? Well, the dog was sick, and nobody filled out this form stating that they might have an interest in the animal. Now, when you put an interest on, that doesn't mean you're obligated to take the animal. If the dog gets sick and the dog's still on a stray hold, the shelter is supposed to call you. So if there's no interest in that animal, the shelter feels they have the right to put the dog to sleep. This shelter does not call you if the dog is possibly a parvo or a distemper candidate. They don't have the manpower to call rescues to say, hi, we have a poodle here, the poodle's sick, can you come and get the animal? They'll just put the animal to sleep. They also do not have emails, which I have suggested many, many times, as an animal is documented from the vet staff, which is a separate facility. If they have a medical issue, the shelter director is not sending out daily emails, as I had suggested, to just give a heads up to everybody that they know the dog has an issue. I've seen hundreds of dogs at this shelter unfortunately put to sleep after they sat there for days and days with leg problems and fractures and things that required extra medical care. The shelter will not spend money on diagnostic testing. They won't spend money on any medicine further than just pain medicine. So that animal unfortunately will sit there. So this is one of the main issues. Also, the breeds are wrong. Networkers, cross-posters, and rescuers have to unfortunately call this shelter constantly. If you feel that a breed's wrong, please keep calling and emailing. Many animals have died because the breeds were listed wrong. Everybody's after them about the pictures. Now, I wanted to explain to people the difference in these pictures. Now, this picture with the blue wall is the main area when you first come in where the public brings their animals. Now, you also have a different background here. This here with the white gate in front of it, that is the animal control room. Now, what that means to you is the animal was picked up by animal control. The public did not bring this dog into the shelter. So either the shelter itself received a phone call to come and get the dog, it's running loose, or a neighbor said the dog is abandoned and the shelter might confiscate the animal. Then we have pictures like this one here. Now that is the main area in the front of the shelter. Usually it's when people drop off animals. A lot of times, unfortunately, it's their own animal, and they will not state it's their own animal because they have to pay to drop off the dog. So unfortunately, this dog will sit here for about 4 days until it's made available. In the meantime, they get sick. Okay, then you have a different picture, which would be one such as this. Now you see the blue Hawaiian background in the back and the dog's in a cage. That also means animal control brought that dog into the shelter. So this is just giving you basic so you know with the pictures. We also have pictures with the white background. Now that is a wonderful volunteer from a company called Dos Velas. And they come in and they take pictures of the dogs and they try and get the dog's entire body in the picture. Then there are the really beautiful pictures called glamour shots. Now, that is the Inland Empire Alliance for Animals, which comes in, and the background of those pictures will be a solid color, red, purple, pink, and that has the head of the dog. Now, what I've been suggesting for a long time is that the dogs that are the most critical, which are under Adopt-A-Pet, those the time click is ticking because they're already off the stray hold. They need really good pictures. So my suggestion was, and they didn't listen, would be maybe to have the glamour shot and the other company do pictures of these dogs because they're on their last hours. I'd like to talk about different things within the shelter itself. Okay. When you first walk into the shelter and you walk straight back, there is a bulletin board there with a flyer on there. Every day that's updated. That is a listing of dogs that the public cannot see. There is a designation NA, which is the not available room. There is observation, which is the letter O. And there's ER, which are the dogs which are being medicated. Contrary to what people are stating, dogs are not put to sleep in front of other dogs. There's a separate room if you were to go into this area where the public's not allowed and the volunteers are not allowed. There's another room inside of that room. Each of the dogs, unfortunately, when they're being put to sleep, are escorted one dog at a time. So I'd like to just let people know that. On the left side, as you're walking down the hallway, is the green room. That is for puppies. Then, as you walk straight back on the left side, there is the blue room. That is usually for the smaller dogs. Behind that is the room for the cats. And then you have your main kennel area. And those are row numbers A through G, the letter G. With the dogs that are in isolation, the dogs that are not available, the best thing to do for people is to ask for a medical history. The public can't see them. They're back there for a certain reason, and unfortunately a lot of times that reason is because they need care. Or they don't want them out on the floor in case they are possibly aggressive. The shelter is a separate facility than the vet clinic. So if you're rescuing a dog, you don't want to chance, if that dog is very sick or possibly late-term pregnant, of the clinic spaying or neutering that animal when you don't want them to. I can't tell you how many people came to pick up their animal only to find out they had aborted puppies, or the animal got really sick and some of them died, unfortunately, after being spayed or neutered when they were sick. So that's another thing you want to make sure of. Call up the vet clinic, give them instructions. If you don't want that dog fixed or neutered if they're sick or possibly pregnant, make sure you tell the clinic. The main thing for this shelter is that they want, in writing, a commitment. If you're sending an email and that email is just asking for information, you're asking for, temperament, you're saying don't put the animal to sleep, unfortunately that's not what the shelter wants. So you find a lot of animals get put to sleep here that rescuers might have wanted, but they just didn't outline it correctly in their email. What they want is before 6 o'clock in the morning, that email sent as a regular urgent pull request. So your subject should be urgent pull request and the animal's ID number. Make sure you have your contact info, your phone number, so they could get a hold of you. You can also leave a message overnight if you feel that you're able to make a commitment on an animal. Do not wait till after 6 a.m. I can't tell you how many hundreds of animals got put to sleep because this shelter can euthanize any time of the day. They do not stay after hours like a lot of people are stating to put animals to sleep. It's usually done when they have the staff. Now, the staff at this shelter is extremely busy. A lot of times they don't want emails because they unfortunately can't get back to you. They're trying to do a million things all at the same time. It's underfunded. As you can see, there are a lot of things that need to be fixed at this shelter. This shelter is overseen by the city council. So the city of Moreno Valley and Riverside. They have meetings twice a month. A lot of things have been documented that people want changed, and unfortunately they're not listening. And people are not going to the city meetings and bringing up subjects. When you're sharing information on Facebook pages, just please be careful because, the administrators of the pages, it's basically their page. They're trying to give you information. As you're sharing info, you're putting things on there, unfortunately, sometimes that just you don't want shared like that. So in other words, as you're sharing up will come the name of my page or someone else's page with people just basically typing curse words and things like that. This shelter does not read the Facebook threads. Some of the volunteers read it. The shelter director does not want the staff reading these threads, so they're not seeing your comments. When you're cursing on the threads or naturally being frustrated and things like that, the shelter is not seeing them. They were told purposely not to look at them. Another important thing which rescuers and networkers are not doing, which could be very helpful, is ask in writing for a medical history. That will give you information. If you see a dog that you feel on the picture needs medical care and the shelter definitely is not addressing it because they're not spending money to do that, ask for medical history in writing. rescue@movel.org. That's their main email. Rescue, the @ Movel, MOVAL.org. They don't want their phone lines overflowing with messages, and they also want things in writing, requests. When listings come down, that's usually not a good sign. The shelter is unfortunately making people wait for a status on the animal. If you call from the public, you get more of a response than if you're calling as a networker. They are overwhelmed with calls and emails about the status of a dog. 99% of the time, unfortunately, the dog is already put to sleep. When the listings come down, people are unfortunately sharing the dog and the dog's already put to sleep. 1% of the time, the listing might come down if the owner's on their way in or if a rescue's on their way in to get the animal. Check at the beginning of every hour on Pet Harbor. The way we had this set up is so people don't spend their time on dogs that are safe. And if a listing is down, try emailing for the status. Another thing is with fostering. If a dog has a medical issue, a rescue group can take the dog to get medical care, and it will be fostered with possible rescue when the dog is actually available to the public. A lot of times people are concerned the dog's sitting there with a broken leg and things like that. You can actually take the dog out of the shelter ahead of time. You just have to know what to do. So once again, just send your emails to rescue@movel.org. Same thing with rescue groups who would like to be rescue partners. You have to get a packet, and that packet, you would send the email to that email address also. Fill it out, and then it makes it much easier for people to pull dogs and to accomplish what they need to do. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope my information was okay, and that certainly appreciate everybody's help. It's hard with the kill shelter. Unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of bad things that we didn't see years ago. And the shelters all work differently. This shelter, like I said, is a kill shelter. Dogs can now be put to sleep an hour after they become available to the public. So a lot more people are frantic. Thank you for your help, and I certainly appreciate everything. If you need to contact me, I have an email, dogsneedhomes@aol.com. And once again, this is Laura Medeiros. Thank you very much.